Welcome to Crimson Drive. It's time to start your engines.
In the beginning was Daytona.
Here we go.
The birthplace of speed, the launch pad of legends, the great American race.
Oh, they're in the wall.
It's always been,
Keep digging, stay in the gap.
and will always be, the proving ground for greatness.
Let's go, boys!
Every driver looking to be remembered. Every fan looking for something they'll never forget. Secure your seats now at Daytona500.com.
Roll Tide and welcome to this Thursday edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. This is Roger Hoover. Great to be with you from our Tuscaloosa studios on a very busy week of Alabama athletics. We've got basketball, we've got football, soccer's coming up in the NCAA tournament. Really, it's all happening here at the Capstone. But we're going to start this show by going through everything coming up thanks to our friends at RJ Young. RJ Young is the official technology solutions provider of Crimson Drive. They've given us a smart board to go through really everything in a very interactive way throughout our headlines. First things first, we'll talk to the quarterback, Jalen Milroe, the SEC Offensive Player of the Week. It's not the only award he won this week. You'll hear more about that coming up, but after a great performance against LSU, we'll talk first with Jalen Milroe. Then we'll hear from the head coach of the Crimson Tide, Nick Saban, with coach's checklist from his Wednesday press conference. And then we'll talk with Aaron Suttles. He is from Yay, Alabama, the director of content there. He'll give us kind of his perspective. He was a longtime beat writer on the Crimson Tide, knows this program better than anybody. He'll talk about the 2 wins against Tennessee and LSU and what's ahead for this Crimson Tide football team. Eli Gold will be along to preview what's coming up later tonight with Hey Coach and the Nick Saban Show here in Tuscaloosa. Then we'll round out our show by heading up to Lexington. Tom Leach is the voice of the Kentucky Wildcats, and he gives us a scouting report on Alabama's opponent, Kentucky. Speaking of those Kentucky Wildcats, that's the next opponent for the Crimson Tide, as Alabama has an opportunity to clinch the SEC Western Division title with a victory in either this ballgame against Kentucky or the Iron Bowl. But let's go ahead and knock it out this Saturday. The Crimson Tide also hoping to continue their winning ways against Kentucky with 7 straight victories. Mentioned some awards for Jalen Milroe. Among the awards he received, the Maxwell Award Player of the Week, so the best player in college football. Coach Saban, the best coach in college football, well, all time, and some opinions, my opinion, but in the Dodd Trophy's opinion, he was the best coach of the entire week in college football. So we love seeing that for Coach Saban. How about for the Crimson Tide basketball teams? A great start on Monday, and we can't wait to be back at Coleman Coliseum coming up tomorrow, as the women's basketball team will be home against Winthrop at 4:30 p.m. and also a National Signing Day. Eris Lester signing along with Chloe Spreen. Great to see that for the Crimson Tide women's basketball team. The men's team home tomorrow night as well against Indiana State. 7 o'clock will be the start time, and as Larry Bird lookalike Grant Nelson, who's been named to the Naismith Trophy watch list after he had a great performance on Monday night. A fantastic debut in Crimson for Grant Nelson, who, again, if you see pictures of Larry Bird from his time at Indiana State, you will see the resemblance definitely between Alabama's Grant Nelson and, of course, Indiana State's Larry Bird. Some other headlines around Crimson Tide athletics I mentioned is really busy coming up here on campus. That'll be the case coming up tomorrow with both soccer and volleyball in action. The soccer team will be back in the NCAA tournament for a 3rd straight year and for the 2nd straight year, getting to host its first round matchup, and it will be Alabama against the SoCon champion Western Carolina Catamounts coming up at 5 o'clock. So best of luck to Wes Hart and the Crimson Tide, hoping to advance to possibly play North Carolina next week in the 2nd round. Meanwhile, the volleyball team will be home coming up this weekend against the Arkansas Razorbacks at 6 p.m. at Foster Auditorium tomorrow, and then coming up on Sunday against the Florida Gators at 4 p.m. So that's a look at what's coming up around Crimson Tide athletics. Again, very busy time here on campus at the Capstone, and one of the most active student athletes on campus has been Jalen Milroe, with all the weekly awards he's picked up, the Maxwell, the Davey O'Brien, great award, as well as one of the Manning Stars of the Week. Just Jalen Milroe's put together a tremendous performance here for the Crimson Tide, and he joins us once again on Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. First of all, Roll Tide, let's look back to the LSU win. What made that Saturday night special?
I think the biggest thing what made it special was the love we had for one each other and how we approached the game. We had great preparation during the week, but also we leaned on our 4th quarter program. Coach Saban preached on allowing us to really play for all 60 minutes, and that really factored into our success. So I'm proud of the guys in the locker room, but we're nowhere near a finished product, and we're looking forward to all the challenges that's ahead.
Crimson Tide with 6 touchdowns in the game, all on the ground. Of course, you had 4 of them. What led to some of your good vision on some of those rushing touchdowns?
Trusting the game plan. Coach Reed's done a good job preparing me for this week, and I embraced the challenge as far as getting better, and then leaning on the game plan and trusting in it. And it all factors in how well we all play together as one on offense. So we're constantly growing, and I'm excited.
Of course, a lot of fans have seen you run before, but they also saw you have some juke moves or some stiff arms and things like that. Have those always kind of been tools in your toolbox?
Yeah, I've been hiding it for a little bit. No, but I think when I play, it's all about instincts and then trusting it and seeing it. That's all I've been coached all my life. And as I approach the game, it's all about just doing what need to be to stack good downs, good plays, and I think that was important to be successful.
What have you seen out of Jamarian Miller? He's had more playing time recently.
Jamarian Miller, he's practicing hard. He also how he approaches the game, how well he prepares, and how he is as a teammate. I think he's a really good teammate, and he's an important factor for us moving forward as an offense. So I'm proud of all of his growth throughout the season and how hard he works.
Now you guys are back on the road against a very good Kentucky team. What's going to be most important throughout the week to get ready for the Wildcats?
Doing our job, and then also embracing the challenge. We're going on the road to a great football team, and we're really going to have to play all 60 minutes for these guys and prepare as much as possible. And then we have to be where our feet are. So that's important for our success, and then also surrendering the outcome, and then really embracing the challenge that's ahead.
Do you like how battle-tested this team has been through the first 9 weeks?
No doubt. And what all factored into that is our off-season program. All the things that we implemented as far as getting together, knowing our brothers, and then also our fourth quarter program. Coach Blue done a good job, and Coach Saban with his fourth quarter program and running it. I think that was important for all our success.
Well, we've been having a lot of fun watching you play, Jalen Milroe. Just thank you for joining us. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
The 2024 NASCAR regular season is kicking off with the Daytona 500. Be there and experience all the energy, all the excitement, and the power as drivers battle it out at nearly 200 miles per hour in the Great American Race. Don't miss out on the opportunity to experience history at one of NASCAR's most iconic tracks. More than 100,000 fans will be cheering on the stars of NASCAR. Purchase your tickets today at Daytona500.com and join them in one of the best atmospheres in all of sports. Well, the Crimson Tide football team again having that focus on what's coming up Saturday at Kroger Field in Lexington. And last night it was head coach Nick Saban meeting with the media for one final time this week as we get ready for Alabama against Kentucky. Here is coach's checklist from Wednesday.
All right, guys. Well, I think the most important thing is players are a little better today, a little sluggish yesterday, but responded a lot better today. I think it's important that, tough to play in our league on the road. You got to try to be physical, be the most physical team, which Kentucky kind of prides himself in being. And you got to have the right mindset and the right, mental approach to being able to do that in terms of how you practice, how you prepare, and what you do, and your mindset when the game comes, because you just can't turn it on and turn it off. So, I think that if you're going to be, you just can't say you're going to be the most physical team. You got to be the most physical team when the game comes. You got to have the right mental approach so you're prepared, so you can execute. Be the most disciplined team when the game comes, and that's what we're really focusing on. And I think the players were a lot better today. So we're making progress, and we want to continue to try to improve. But this is a challenging game. The way these guys play on offense, defense, they got good players. So it's going to be a test for us.
Hey, Coach, just how have guys like Deontay Lawson and Jalen Key progressed this week?
They haven't been able to practice yet, so but it's still kind of day-to-day. So if guys can't practice on Thursday, it's probably pretty tough for them to practice in the game. So maybe we'll know more tomorrow. He's getting better. He's playing better. He's got more confidence. I think he knows what to do. And I think because of that confidence, he was apprehensive sometimes about doing what he was supposed to do, even when he knew what he was supposed to do. So I think all that comes with confidence, and just like young guys at any position, whether it's making a call or whatever, they don't want to make a call because they don't want to be wrong. But when you get experience and you gain confidence, and you do that by making mistakes and you learn from them. And he has continued to progress, and I think is continuing to improve.
In the beginning was Daytona, the great American race. Every driver looking to be remembered. Every fan looking for something they'll never forget. Secure your seats now at Daytona500.com.
Somebody that has covered the highs and lows of the Alabama Crimson Tide football program over the last many years is Aaron Suttles. Now he's working officially with Yay Alabama, the official NIL entity of Alabama Athletics. So he has a great perspective on not only this Crimson Tide football team, but how student athletes are starting to maximize their NIL opportunities here at the University of Alabama. So we figured after 2 great wins against Tennessee and LSU, this was the perfect time to visit with one of our good friends, Aaron Suttles from Yay Alabama, to get his thoughts on the Crimson Tide as we get set for these final 3 weeks of the regular season. Aaron, Roll Tide. It was pretty fun here on Saturday in Tuscaloosa.
It was a special atmosphere. You start thinking about the last 2 games in Bryant-Denny Stadium, and the fans really brought it. Coach Saban has basically thanked the fans for having an impact on the game. Look, and I think the way this team is this year, relatively not as strong as they've been in years past, and sort of an uneasiness, uncertainty about this team going from week to week in big games, I think it's made the fans connect with this team in a way that they haven't in a while. That there is genuine excitement when they win, whereas, during the height of the dynasty, they expected to win. And so there wasn't any uncertainty. Well, now there's uncertainty, so you win, you get that sort of euphoria, and we're seeing that in Bryant-Denny Stadium.
What makes this team so good at adjusting, whether it's trailing at halftime, maybe not playing their best from one quarter to next? How are they getting back on track, especially in some second halves?
Yeah, especially on defense, right? You start thinking about only 7 points allowed versus that explosive LSU, 0 versus Tennessee, which is also an explosive offense. So I think it's just the defensive staff, all the defensive coaches. Coach Saban actually said during his Monday press conference that they're actually instructing from drive to drive on the sideline too. So I think the coaching staff deserves a lion's share of what you're seeing in the second half. And the players, it's just, I think, particularly at home, they're feeding off that crowd's energy, and they've been lights out.
Offensively, how is this team different now as we're 9 weeks in compared to where we were early in the year?
Night and day. I mean, every week they get more multiple. We're seeing more jet sweeps. We've seen the emergence of Kendrick Law the last few weeks. Now Jalen Milroe, 4 rushing touchdowns. You're going to have to start accounting for him and dedicating a quarterback spy to him. And I think a lot of that, the growth of Jalen as a quarterback. Look, he's, I think a lot of people forget that was only 1 start coming into this year, and that was an injury necessitated start against Texas A&M the year before. So he's getting more experience every week. I think the coaching staff trusts him a little bit every more. So more of the game plan is being installed every week. And the emergence of the offensive line. Look, Jaden Roberts being inserted into the starting lineup at right tackle is noticeable. That is a big, angry man who is physical. Now you got Tyler Booker, you got J.C. Latham, the continued growth and emergence of Caden Proctor at left tackle. The offensive line's allowing them to do it. Not perfect, but you're seeing steps every week in the sort of the evolution of this offense.
Absolutely, and then it continues with the wide receivers as well, whether it's Jermaine Burton, Isaiah Bond. They had a lot of targets against Tennessee. They're stepping up and making plays. I
mean, Isaiah Bond is a huge weapon. We've seen Jermaine Burton in that game against Texas A&M. He's a weapon too. So you got 2 reliables there. And I mentioned Kendrick Law. There are different ways that you can use him. A lot of people are saying he's Debo Samuel 2.0. We're not going to claim he's going to be a star in the NFL, but in terms of body type and the explosiveness that he brings. And look, I don't think they've scratched the surface on a player like Amari Niblack at tight end on how they can use him. So Alabama suddenly, a lot of question marks about this offense throughout the year, but each week they've unquestionably gotten better. And suddenly you start looking around and an offense that looked pretty lame throughout much of the season. It's like, oh, they got some weapons out there.
And then how about the running back room as well? We saw Jam Miller most of the second quarter, didn't see Roydell at all in the first half. He comes into the third quarter and you can't stop him.
I mean, Jam Miller is one of those plug-and-play guys that gives you juice immediately. He's just got that extra gear to him. Jace McClellan's just been a rock all year long. And Roydell is really came into his own this season. So it's exciting. And you got a young guy like Justice Haynes when it finally clicks for him beyond just carrying the ball. I think a lot of people forget running backs have other things they have to do. You got to know the pass protection. You got to be able to pick up a blitz, all those sorts of things that maybe high-ranked players weren't asked to do in high school. So it's a loaded running back room. But now with Jam Miller, I mean, you just notice, you don't even have to see the number. You're like, oh, that looked different. And that's Jam Miller.
Absolutely. So good to see that for the Crimson Tide against LSU. Crazy home environment. Now you got to snap back to reality a little bit. Going on the road, early start at Kentucky. Just what's the focus going to be around here this week?
Yeah, what do they call it? A trap game? When you had 2 emotional wins with Tennessee's emotional win. you had the bye week to sort of reset, and then LSU is another emotional win. And then it's a sleepy 11 o'clock kick in Kentucky. The name's not going to make you get up for it. So you gotta motivate yourself. And if playing for an SEC West title doesn't get them up, then nothing will. So I think this is a maturity week for this Alabama football team because it's Kentucky and Mark Stoops. That's a quality football team. You know, they're really good on the line of scrimmage. So Alabama's going to. It's not LSU's defense. No offense to LSU, but I think it's well documented the struggles they've had this year. So Alabama's got to come ready to play on an 11 o'clock kick with everything at stake to be able to win the West. I mean, look, you start thinking about the second or third week in September, the conversations that people were having about Alabama. It is drastically different now, and this team. Hate to use that word, phrase, control your own destiny, but they're in a really good spot as long as they take care of business. But it's a big maturity test this weekend.
Well, you're working for Corsier, Alabama. What can you tell us about some of the work you guys are doing kind of throughout the season, not just with the football program, but touching all sports here at Alabama?
Yeah, so obviously a big basketball game in Coleman Coliseum tonight. We'll be there for that. We had a big tailgate out on the quad. For LSU, we're sort of half-hour huddle is our premier show. We're showcasing our student athletes and their personalities across all sports. And I think it's just important and incumbent upon us to just keep stressing how NIL is important to the future of all programs at the University of Alabama. For $18 a month, you can help do your sort of fulfill your own joy, because I saw a lot of joy in the stadium on Saturday night, Roger. And if Alabama wants to continue that joy, then NIL is the way that you can directly support that.
Absolutely. Larry and Suttles, thank you so much for joining us. Roll Tide.
Absolutely.
Where will you be on game day? Be a part of the action with a premium reserve tailgate from Game Day Done Right. Get your group together, pick your game and tailgate package, make sure you add on catering, beverages, and other tailgating amenities, and let Game Day Done Right take it from there. Enjoy all the fun of game day with zero stress. Visit GameDayDoneRight.com to reserve your tailgate today. For your next tailgate, just add people. Game Day Done Right is the exclusive provider of reserved tailgating opportunities for the University of Alabama and offers packages for all group sizes for a single game or for the entire season. As we continue on Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR, one of our favorite parts of the week is Thursday when we get to visit with Eli Gold as he gets ready to come to Tuscaloosa for Hey Coach and the Nick Saban Show that's coming up later tonight at 6 p.m. Plus, we get Eli's thoughts on Crimson Tide football. Here's our one-on-one conversation with Eli Gold. Eli, Roll Tide. We had a lot of fun in the broadcast booth on Saturday against LSU. How's everything going?
We really did. That's every game is good. Every LSU game is something we look forward to, but winning the way the Tide did and playing a pretty dominating ball game was very, very nice. It sure was.
It really was a special atmosphere. We've talked before about some of the fan energy, especially that second half against Tennessee. But how about under the lights, especially when they do what is on the background I have, make the whole stadium crimson, the fans with the lights on their phones? I mean, it's really second to none right now in college football.
It really is. We describe it as best we can on the air, but it's really something you've got to see. And unfortunately, the one remaining home game will be at 11 o'clock in the morning. So your chances to see that are gone for this season. But in future years, you need to get out if you've never been and take in a night game at Bryant-Denny Stadium. You're right. There's no atmosphere like it.
Well, it certainly was great to see Alabama play well in addition to that against the LSU Tigers. In your opinion, just what led to so much success for Alabama in that second half?
Well, so many different things, but the confidence that they had built up was, that's infectious. It really is. It's infectious. You had good play on the part of Jalen Milroe. You had good play on the part of so many people. The defense, as we've talked in the past, as everybody has said, defense wins championships, and the defense was playing very, very well. So, everything went in according to Hoyle, and that was nice. And now, of course, you've got a tough game in Kentucky where, it's a game that Bama should win. But at the same time, Kentucky has become a pretty decent ball club. This is not your father's Kentucky Wildcats. I remember when we played there years ago, and Kentucky upset Alabama, and it was devastating. And the Kentucky fans didn't even know what the hell to do. They ran from Commonwealth Stadium to Rupp Arena and cut down the nets. They didn't know what to do in a football victory. But it was you don't want to see that happen again. But they can always sneak up on you. Kentucky is not a bad ball club by any stretch. So it's a game we've got to look out for, but it's a game that Bama should win.
And can take, again, a huge step forward towards Atlanta for an SEC championship berth. The SEC Western Division on the line, and maybe some people weren't thinking that was possible early in the season. But, Eli, this group keeps getting better week to week, and that's fun to see.
They do. They're improving, and that's what you want. That's what you hope for. And you're right, after that Texas game in week 2, there were people jumping off rooftops saying, oh, Lord, good gosh. And next thing you know, you got to remind everybody, hey, it's a young team. There have been a lot of changes. You've lost a lot of players to the National Football League. Don't jump off the roof quite yet. This is still a very good team. But, you're supposed to say that. I'm supposed to say that. Even though it's the truth, people think, well, they're supposed to say that. Well, the fact of the matter is we said it because we knew what this team could do. And here it is now. We're getting near the finish of the year, and it's getting to be that kind of time where, you've got Kentucky, you've got Chattanooga, and then of course the Iron Bowl in Auburn. So it's going to be very, very interesting. But you can't take Kentucky for granted.
We certainly won't, and I know that'll come up coming up on Thursday night with Hey Coach and the Nick Saban Show, and Coach Saban joins you at the restaurant. What else is planned coming up for all the fans that are going to either listen, watch the show, or go to Baumhauer's in Tuscaloosa?
We've got about we've got women's tennis. We're going to open the show up with Jonathan Berhane, the head coach of the women's tennis team. That's going to be first off the start. Then Nick Kelly will be with us. Nick, he's from the Tuscaloosa News, their fine beat writer. And then, of course, Nick Saban will be along from 7 until 8 o'clock to talk about all that he wants to. So that's what's coming up on Thursday night edition of the show, and it should be a lot of fun.
Well, we look forward to it. Just make sure you tell Nick Kelly to keep those Missouri Journalism School references really to a minimum as we go throughout the show, and you should be fine.
Definitely. We'll do that.
Well, Eli, we look forward to that coming up, as well as everything's coming up over the next few busy weeks here in Tuscaloosa. Should be a lot of fun. Just thank you for your time with us once again on Crimson Drive. Roll Tide, sir.
Always a pleasure. Roll Tide, Roger.
Crimson Drive is driven by NASCAR, and the Great American Race is returning on February 18th, 2024. Bring your whole family and experience the energy, the excitement of the iconic Daytona 500. Purchase your tickets today at Daytona500.com. And, of course, NASCAR fans, we had Cole Custer join us earlier in the week on Tuesday's edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. He won the Xfinity Series championship. Ben Rhodes was able to win the Craftsman Truck Series, so one-on-one conversations with them are archived on our CTSN YouTube page from Tuesday's edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. As we start to round out this edition, we wanted to go to the Bluegrass State and check in with Tom Leach, the voice of Kentucky Wildcats. He gives us a scouting report on Kentucky, Alabama's next opponent, coming up this Saturday. It's been a few years since we've gotten to play each other in football, but how's everything with the football team up in Lexington?
Well, they have had a solid season. They had 3 games against ranked teams that didn't go as well as they hoped. So they haven't had that marquee win. They've kind of taken care of business in the games that they were expected to do well, and the games where they were an underdog, they haven't quite found the formula. So they're looking for that breakthrough signature win.
And offensively, with Devin Leary at quarterback, what is this Kentucky team doing best in terms of running its offense?
Well, the thing that we're doing best is giving the ball to Ray Davis. He's I haven't checked the stats this week. I know he was for several weeks the SEC's leading rusher, so he's either 1 or 2. Tennessee made a really focused effort to take him away because Kentucky had been struggling throwing the football. Tennessee's approach was, okay, let's prove to us you can throw it. Well, that was coming off an open date, and Kentucky threw it better than they've thrown it all season, and so that gave them a chance against the Vols, and they continued to throw it well down at Mississippi State. So it looks like they've got the passing game issues handled now, and they can be more balanced. So the inability to count on the passing game was really limiting them at times, and they were basically just living on some big plays. But now they seem to be more balanced. and just still a little inconsistent offensively.
What has Ray Davis done best, and is it really the offensive line helping create a lot of the opportunities he's had?
Well, yeah, it certainly is that. They played much better up front than they did a year ago. Ray has, I think the feeling was he was a guy that was going to be great between the tackles, get those hard yards, which he has done. But I think he's had a little more of a breakaway component than maybe Kentucky fans were expecting. So he's just been super consistent, really. He runs really hard, great in blitz pickup, great, teammate, catches the ball well. Last week was the first game in which he didn't score at least one touchdown. So he's been a guy that's really been their best player offensively.
Then on the defensive side of the ball, who are some of the playmakers our fans need to know about? What's the strength of this Kentucky defense?
Well, I think probably their defensive line is their best position group. Deion Walker's a future NFL player. They play the 3-4, so he's usually lined up at one on either side of the nose. And otherwise they're a little younger than they've been. A lot of sophomores on the defense, and so they have had some issues against the best offenses they have faced. The top three offenses. Of the five in the league, Kentucky's played three of them of the top five, and they did not fare well really against them. They gave up way too many points. So otherwise, they've been solid. I mean, last week they were really good against Mississippi State, held them to 3 points, 218 total yards. Really good against Florida. So that was their emphasis last week, to try to get back to what they did in the Florida game. That was certainly, I think, far and away their best overall performance, given that Mississippi State did have its backup quarterback in last week. So the Florida game was kind of the high point of the season for the defense, and then they ran into three high-powered offenses and had some struggles. But I think they're probably in October they had some issues where they were had some key guys dinged up. Trevin Wallace came back last week and played well. He's one of their better players as an inside linebacker. They've had a freshman that they put in at one of the safety positions that helped solidify that. He started the last two games, Ty Bryant, so that's helped them. Their safety play was a little inconsistent. So, just inconsistency stemming from being relatively inexperienced compared to some past Kentucky defenses.
Well, for Alabama fans that are making the trip to Lexington, of course, it's been a few years for us to get there for football. What changes can you tell us about with Kroger Field coming in and some of the renovations, and how does Commonwealth Stadium look different than it did before?
I think since the last time Bama was here, I don't think there's much that's significantly different. If folks have been looking at the weather up here, it'll change a good bit. It's about 80 today as we tape this on a Wednesday. But it's supposed to be mid-50s on Saturday, but sunny. So it'll just be kind of like what you would normally expect to get in November here in the Bluegrass.
Well, we know it's also basketball season for Kentucky. What can you tell us about John Calipari's team? We know there's always excitement around Kentucky basketball.
Yeah, there's a lot this year because he's got one of his best recruiting classes. And I think he's gotten back with this team in particular to that formula of having multiple freshmen that are first-round draft pick possibilities, and they are playing really well. They're playing very fast, very unselfishly. They went up and played 4 games in Toronto this summer, got a little bit of a head start. So really, the guards are outstanding at this point anyway. They've got 3 big guys that are out for various reasons, and everybody's eager for at least one of those guys to get back to particularly help their defense. I think their offense is nobody's got any complaints there, but defensively they could use a little bit of rim protection.
Well, we'll look forward to Alabama against Kentucky in basketball. But first things first, the football matchup coming up on Saturday. Tom Leach, just thank you for your time getting us ready for the Wildcats, and we look forward to seeing you. Thank you.
Happy to help.
Great conversation with Tom Leach. Again, we look forward to heading up to Kentucky this weekend for some Crimson Tide football. But before that, there's a lot going on here in Tuscaloosa. Let's see what's coming up this weekend with our weekend update brought to you by Wickles Pickles. They are wickedly delicious. We've always got them here with us on set, always at Bryant-Denny Stadium. You should always have them for your tailgate. Just go online to WicklesPickles.com for more about Wickles Pickles and the delicious products they have available. Let's see what's coming up across the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Well, later tonight it will be a new edition, as Eli mentioned, of Hey Coach and the Nick Saban Show from Baumhower's Victory Grill. Best of luck to frequent Crimson Drive guest Nick Kelly, as he's the CBNS Bank media guest coming up for tonight on the show. But we look forward to that with Eli and Coach Saban and Nick Kelly. Also, we're looking forward to Tide TV this week, hosted by Delaney Jones. Then coming up on Friday, we'll have a basketball doubleheader. The women's team against Winthrop at 4:30 p.m. Then the men's basketball team taking on Indiana State. So we look forward to those games coming up, as we're having to shift a lot of broadcast roles here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Chris Harris will call the women's game for us, and then Jen Dunaway and Brian Passink. What a dream team we have coming up for the men's basketball broadcast on Friday. Saturday, we will be in Lexington, and we're hoping it's even warmer than Tom Leach talked about, but we will be there starting at 8 a.m. Central for the pregame. Kickoff coming up at 11 o'clock for that ball game, and then on Sunday, you can hear Coach Saban's thoughts on the ball game with Chris Stewart on the Nick Saban television show. Women's basketball back underway at Coleman Coliseum against Morehead State. And then on Monday, we're going to be back with all of our friends at Baumhower's Victory Grill in Vestavia Hills for a fun edition of Crimson Tide Rewind. Hopefully by that point, we're celebrating an SEC Western Division Championship. But that's what's coming up on our upcoming schedule, plus plenty more coming up available on all of our social media outlets before, during, and after the ball game. Make sure you follow us here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network for the latest on the Alabama Crimson Tide. And that will wrap up this edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. Huge thank you to our guests, starting with the quarterback, Jalen Milroe, who it's at least 5 or 6 weeks he's joined us here for our Thursday edition of the show. We always appreciate his time. Eli Gold, Tom Leach, Aaron Suttles, great as well. Thank you to Ethan Carabin. He put this entire show together, and thanks to all of you for watching. Now let's get ready for some basketball, for some NCAA soccer, Crimson Tide football. It's all happening this weekend. Hopefully we're talking next week on Tuesday about more great victories for the University of Alabama. For everybody here at the Crimson Tide Sports Network, this is Roger Hoover saying thank you for watching, and Roll Tide.